What's up, guys? Welcome back. Welcome back. Glad you're here. On today's episode, we're going to be switching up again. That's right. Like I said before, I want to bring you guys a vast array of different content to this channel. Not just reviews, not just tutorials, not just me doing whatever. Different stuff that nobody else in this kind of space, so to speak, is doing. So today I'm going to be actually teaching you guys how to make your favorite deck, or any deck of that matter, to feel so broken in, so nice and smooth. Not only that, it's going to last so much longer. I'm talking 5 to 10 times longer than any other deck that you'll ever break in. And I promise you, you probably don't even know about it. That's right. What am I talking about? I'm going to be talking about buffing. That's right, buffing. I'm talking about buffing your favorite decks of cards, like I said, in general. In this technique, you need to pay attention because it's very intricate, like I said, and it is well worth the time. So, like I said, go ahead and get yourself a buffer, which I'll be talking about here soon, in your favorite deck of cards, and join me on this journey. Alright guys, so I've been wanting to bring this to the channel for quite a little bit here. I want to thank a good friend of mine, Chris Gagliola, or Deckhead as he's better known as, for kind of bringing this all to fruition and really kind of, showing me the kind of like the aspects of everything that this is involved in, and the details and the history and the background and whatnot, and really touching base on what this can do for your decks of cards. And of course, I've done a lot of my own research as well. If you're not familiar, this is called buffing, okay? Hence why I have buffers sitting here in front of us. And a couple decks of cards, which we'll get into here shortly. So just to kind of give you a brief history on buffing. So as you know, if you talk to a lot of old timers, or you might have seen, a lot of times guys grab decks of cards and they'll rub it on their jeans, okay? And they do that to kind of smooth the edges out of the cards. Well, this here is going to eliminate that all in all. Because I'll tell you personally, from doing that myself before, I've ruined a pair of jeans and that deck of cards. It just doesn't work the way that you think it would, right? I'm not saying it doesn't work altogether, but it's not the greatest way of doing this. This is going to eliminate that. It's very cheap, cost effective. You're going to love it. Trust me. You can turn any old deck into a brand new worker within minutes. And that's the God honest truth. So this was kind of brought to the community by a gentleman by the name of Steven Youell. Steven Youell, he's responsible for things such as, I believe this was published in the DVD, The Whole Nine Yards. He also has other work, Weapons of Mass Destruction, which is a book of his, a piece of, literature he put out to the community. But this is kind of talked about more by him than anybody, right? But it's been being done for years. People have been doing this, but nobody seems to talk about it. So I just want to come across, and I want to let everybody know here. I've talked to some within the community, and there's a lot of people that are like, well, man, why would you teach that? Why? It's a secret. It's not a secret. This is far from a secret. And it's not one of those things that's gonna crumble the community. I mean, let's be honest. So, like I said, we're going to go over a couple things, a couple of different, the buffer that I use, that I prefer, that you guys should pick up. But I also encourage you to shop around, do your own research, find some other ones, other name brands, other, stores that carry buffers, and try them out. See what works for you. And that's the best part about this whole thing of buffing is this is all about preference, okay? You don't have to take it down as much as I do on the edges, right? My buddy Chris, who you know, kind of showed me all this, he just changed the way that he even does it, you know? So as you go along, you're gonna learn, you're gonna kind of teach yourself almost of ways, and just different things that, you know, you're doing are gonna kind of help you as you move. So the buffers that I use, as you can see, I have two here. Now this one was a stick buffer, okay? This one was a one-piece stick buffer, okay? It's double-sided. It has 4 sides, just like these, 1, 2, 3, 4. And this is gonna be the more rough side, a little bit less, more fine. This is gonna kind of smooth stuff out, and this is gonna really buff those edges and shine them up nice, okay? These are called the Tropical Shine buffers, okay? And this is the mini version. You can get these in full size. The reason I like the mini version is it's almost perfect for that deck of cards. The other ones are a little bit more bulkier. They're about another half, if not 3/4 of a size bigger than these. So you're, you know, buffing along, it's hard to see. Now the good thing about the stick ones, and also just to let you know, I get these from Sally's Beauty Supply. I don't know if you guys have those by you, but if so, that's where you could find these mainly. But the good thing about the stick ones, these are the almost exact thickness of a deck of cards. So, I mean, it's almost like it's meant to be. So, like I said, we're going to go ahead and kind of unravel all of this as we go along. And I'm going to kind of show you guys the kind of the minimum of, you know, how this all works and stuff like that. And like I said, as you start doing this and you're learning, you know, it's going to take you maybe, you know, 10 minutes to buff a deck, because you're at first you're going to be scared, you're going to be nervous, you don't want to ruin a deck. And that's the other thing too, is when you're doing this, make sure you're not using a $20, $15 even deck of cards, because if you do ruin it, you're going to be pretty upset. Let's just be honest. So make sure you're using the bicycle decks, the tally hos, or whatever, right? Even practice on an old deck of cards, right? That you don't even, you barely even play with. So I kind of brought a couple here. I got my deck, of course, the Paradigms that I brought. It's a sealed deck. We're gonna crack this open here as well, and, you know, kind of show you different things as we go. So yeah. So without further ado, let's get into this. Now, so there's going to be a couple different things and techniques that I'm going to show you that I also kind of came up with that helps me. Like I said, once again, it's my preference when doing this. So if you want to use it, you're more than welcome to. Not a problem at all. But yeah. So when doing this and starting off, you're going to grab your deck that you want to buff, okay? You're going to grab the deck that you want to use. Now, one of the key components in this that you want to make sure of, because if not, you can damage your cards, is you want to make sure, and usually, as you know, a deck of cards, especially rider backs and standard decks or whatnot, usually come with 2 add cards, right? Or if a deck comes with a double backer, you're not using it, or a duplicate card, or whatever the case, you can use those as well when doing this. So what you're going to do is you're going to grab any 2 cards. Now, I always keep extra cards no matter what. So in this case, we're going to use 2 of my add cards from 2 of my Paradigms to do this. So what you're going to do is you're going to make sure you're going to put one on one side, and you're going to put the other on the other. So it's basically encasing that deck, okay? And you always want to make sure that deck, you want to make sure you're on a flat surface, okay? Steven talks about using a mirror. Mirrors are usually one of the flatter surfaces that you can find, okay? But in this case, we're going to use the table. Now, a couple also key components in this are as follows. You're going to want to make sure that the deck is completely straight when doing this. To do so, your finger is going to come into play here to help. So if the deck is bowing in this way, you have that bad of a deck, you're going to kind of put pressure on it to keep that deck from keeping that fold or that kind of bow, okay? And vice versa. If it's this way, you're going to turn the deck so that way you can put pressure back on it to put it this way, okay? In this case, this deck's in pretty decent shape, and it's just straight as it can be, okay? Now, still, you're going to want to focus and keep that finger at hand, because what's going to happen is, as you're going along and doing the buffing on the deck, sometimes you can, start putting, these fingers can start, kind of putting pressure too much on it, and these cards, as you can see, can bow out as well. So you're going to still want to keep this finger there on standby. And the other hand is going to come into play. With this middle finger, as you're going along, you're going to be kind of putting pressure with this middle finger against pushing this way. So you're going to be kind of pushing against each other this way as you're buffing to kind of keep everything closely, put together. Now, one of the things that as I spoke of earlier, that I kind of came up with to help with doing this process is this little tuck box. Now, as you see, I kind of cut it in an L, okay? And what this is going to do is, it's going to keep your deck, or at least it's going to help, okay? Don't rely on it completely, but it's going to help keep your deck encased and kind of straight, okay? Because it is a box. It's very much, symmetrical and squared for the most part, and it's going to help keep it in there. Now, you're still going to have to keep your cards on each side, of course, but the good thing is you can see it has that, that deck peeking out, so you can still buff it, okay? And the same goes for this side, buff it. And then once you're done with those two edges, all you're gonna do is turn it around. Same thing, buff and buff, okay? Now, one of the other things that you can do, okay, and it's gonna be, once again, all up to you. I do this once in a while. I don't do it every time, but you'll find me using a rubber band or two to kind of help keep that deck situated, because as you'll see, once you start doing this, your fingers will get very sore at times, okay? Now, I don't want you guys to look at this and be like, man, it just seems like so much work. It's so much work. Who wants to do this? Trust me, you allow yourself the time to do one deck of cards. I promise you, you'll want to do your whole collection, okay? That's how good this is. So anyway, so that's going to help keep everything into place, okay? So like I said, that's all up to you of how you want to do it. Now, for the sake of everything going on, I'm not going to use the box, only because I want to kind of give you the full exposed view of everything, okay? So we're going to come back to that maybe, if anything, okay? So like I said, that's an idea. If you guys want to use it, you're more than welcome to doing so. So you're going to get that deck flat. You're going to make sure push down on the edges. Now, what I usually do is I do the longer edges and sides first, okay? The longer sides. And then I go through, do the shorter sides of the deck. And then I go back through and do the corners, okay? Now, the corners are very important because you don't want to be spending a ton of time on these corners. You don't even really want to buff them too much anyway. But you definitely don't want to sit here and, because if you put a hard, kind of edge on that, A, it's going to be super sharp. B, if you have cards that end up mix matching within the deck as you're using it, as we know cards do, it'll end up looking like a stripper deck, because this side will be more shaved down than this side, and whatever. And the same goes for the edges as well. When you go back through, and like I said, we'll get to that as we proceed here, you're going to want to make sure and keep double and even triple checking that all the sides are smooth and even with one another, okay? So Like I said, for this, I'm going to use the block. This is my favorite one to use. As you can see, I keep the plastic even on it once I'm done. The good thing about these little buffers as well, you could take a little damp rag or whatever and wipe them down between every use, or every 2-3 uses, whatever the case. And here it is. And the good part about these little buffers as well, and I'm not exactly familiar with many others, these actually tell you the steps. So it's going to tell you number 1 is blue, 2 pink, 3 white, 4 gray. So it kind of follow that order. Because like I said, remember at the beginning, blue is going to be the more abrasive. Pink is going to be more fine, so on and so forth. Okay? So let's get into this. Like I said, we're going to make sure we got our cards on both sides of the deck. Make sure that deck is flat. Make sure it's kind of straight. The more I'm looking at it, mine's kind of pushing this way. It's not too much, nothing to worry about at this time, but we'll see as we go along. Okay? Push down your cards, make sure everything's pretty even. Now, the cards on the sides, don't worry too much about those. Don't be like, oh, you know, whatever, it's sticking out. And especially once you get, if you use the same cards for like 2 or 3 decks, you're going to notice that these cards are going to be a little bit bigger sometimes because you've used them to shave down other decks or whatever the case. Don't worry about it, okay? Change them up every 2 to 3 decks. Find a new card. Even designate a deck fully for side cards. You know, that's your call. So anyway, let's go along here and start this process. So once again, we're going to start with blue. And you're just going to go along, and you're not going to really put too much pressure. You don't want to put full on pressure. And it's not like you're sanding paint off of a car, all right? You're just going to go along really nicely, nice and smooth, kind of. And you can even hit the edges if you want while you're on these longer sides and the smaller. Just make sure when you're doing it, what I like to do is, and I'll show you once we get to like the pink side especially, it's going to be easier for you to do this, because what I do is I'll go along, I'll start buffing, and you know, like I said, there's no rhyme or reason. I can't tell you I'll go across it 10 times because I don't know the pressure you're putting down. And once again, it comes back into play of this is going to be all preference. It's going to be you almost teaching yourself. I'm going to show you the tools. I'm going to show you the method. I'm going to show you everything that I can. It's going to be your job to utilize those kind of steps and everything in between and bring it to the ways you like to do it, okay? And like I said, there might be trial and error, okay? You might not ever mess up a deck, but like I said, be prepared for failure just in case, because you never know. You might have better results than you think. Okay, so if you don't ruin that deck, you'll be extremely happy. So anyway, what I'll usually do is, once I come across with that pink, I'll kind of let my finger go, and I can show you better with this. See, I'm kind of just letting the fingers glide across those corners, okay? Just to kind of smooth them out a little bit, okay? And like I said, you don't want to hit them too much with the blue, especially. Not at all. Because then you'll put that hard indentation into them, and then there's no coming back from that. You might as well just start over again. Okay? Now, as you go along, you're going to feel, you're going to be like, okay. Yeah, it can be done a little bit more. So you can go across it again with the pink. You can go across it again with the blue. You can do whatever you choose. So once I feel that's good, everything's good, then I'll go back, hit it with that white. Okay, and another key thing to keep in mind is too, when you do hit these corners, is make sure that the cards are all even. Okay, the last thing you want to do is start hitting these corners and you got the edges up higher than the middle of the deck. It's gonna not even touch that center part. Okay, and then I'm gonna go along, I'm gonna go ahead and shine her up and smooth it down. I mean, I wish the camera could pick this up of how shiny this is, and I'll leave some screenshots here just to kind of show you guys what I'm talking about. I mean, I did my Jerry's Nugget deck, my vintage blue, and that deck is like a dream, man. I tell you. deck's trying to come in a little bit. And yeah, so that side is pretty much done. I'm comfortable with the way it feels. Everything seems good. So I'll go on this side now. Make sure everything's good. Deck's not trying to really bow too much, so that's a good thing. Everything seems even all together. And like I said, you don't have to go over it too much with that blue. Just enough to kind of knock those edges off, and then you're good to go. And you want to keep those side cards, once again, close to that deck, because if not, what's going to happen is you're going to ruin the edges of the cards. And see, the hand's already hurting. Prime example right there for you. So then I'm going to hit it with the white. Okay. And this is, once again, this is even more fine. I'm going to kind of touch on those corners just very briefly. Kind of smooth them out a little bit there. Straighten the deck out once again. Kind of let that buffer flow with the natural edges of those cards, and then hit it with that gray, shine her up. Real nice. Whew, man. So yeah, I'm liking the way it feels so far. Everything's on the up and up. Nothing looks too out of hand. I'm gonna pay attention to those corners and stuff, especially as I move on to the smaller sides. Now looking at this, yeah, I guess it's a little straight. The sides are a little bit more tricky, which is why I did create this box. Was mainly for the smaller sides of the deck, okay? Because it's gonna be easier to hold it this way, okay, or even up higher here. Now be careful holding it like this, because your thumb's naturally going to want to push in, which is going to cause that bend, okay? And you don't want that bow in that deck, I'm telling you. It's bad news. So what I'll do is I'll get a lower grip. It's tight enough to where it's still keeping the cards together, and then I go. And I'm still not comfortable with that, so I'm going to go ahead and switch my grip once again. Okay, I might even hit it with the blue one more time just to kind of take it down just a little. All right, nothing crazy. And like I said, very light on the corners. Very light, just to make sure they're smooth, and you'll be able to see it. I mean, I don't want you guys to think like, oh, well, how do I know if they're smooth? Believe me, you'll be able to see it. You'll be able to see like the cards pretty much protruding from one another. Okay. And there we go. And then we go back through once again, finish the rest of the colors off. Letting my finger just kind of flow with that. And good. Shine it up. And you can wait until the very end to do the shiny part. That's all up to you. If you want to wait and finish it all off at once, the only difference is you're going to go back through the entirety of the deck and do that, where just doing it right then and there is just going to knock it all out the way. And you're going to see you're going to have residue wherever you do this at, of course, because it is powder. And naturally, it's like, you know, almost like anything, you know, cutting wood or whatever. You're gonna have, you know, wood chips. You're gonna have card chips everywhere. Whew, man. I tell you, that's the only thing. Now I'll tell you this, man. This is, once you start doing this and getting into it, especially if you enjoy it, like I do, and a bunch of the guys that I talk to like it. you're gonna see, man, like there's nothing like, you're sitting there with the wife or the girlfriend or whatever the case. You wanna watch your shows. You got your shows on the weekends or whatever the case, right? Literally, break out the buffer, a deck of cards, watch your shows while you buff a deck of cards. Nothing like it, I promise. Go back through. Once again, just following those corners as I go, checking them. Definitely need a little bit more of attention. Nothing crazy. I should probably do it there. And every time, if you go back a step, you got to go back and repeat the last steps again. So if you go back to the pink, you got to hit the white and the gray again, okay? So always remember that. Edges here are a little on the rougher side. Like I said, nothing crazy. Go back and repeat the other steps, the last two, and then go back and give her a proper shine. I really hope that shine is really picking up on that camera. I mean, it is something that you're just... I don't know if it's picking up very well, but man, it is just... You know what it feels like? If I had to compare it to anything, I would say it feels like the butterfly playing cards by Andre Senica. You know how that Cardamundi stock is so smooth and those cards feel like glass? I mean, literally, that's what they feel like. Give it a couple riffles, spread it, make sure that there's not a lot of powder in between. You're still gonna wanna, give them some shuffles, make sure everything's still, on the up and up. Give them a couple, couple springs, kind of get the rest of those particles out, okay? Maybe even a couple pharaohs, whatever you prefer to do. All right. And then, like I said, you're gonna go back through. Just make sure everything's, really nice and smooth. Everything's even, more importantly. Now, what I do to make sure that no cards like this side's not more shaved down than this side is usually I'll grab half the packet, spin it, okay, do a pharaoh, okay. That way every other card is the opposite way, and that's gonna allow me to feel that other side on if it's the same as this side, and it is. So everything's even. This deck is good to go. And like I said, this ain't no new deck. I mean, and it spreads like a dream. This is gonna make life for table guys so much better, and that's what it was. It really is used for. A lot of the table guys use these because it really softens up the edges for you to do any kind of table pharaohs. Now this deck is just freshly buffed, so you're gonna have to break it in a little bit more, and kind of, like I said, to kind of really get the best out of those pharaohs. Okay. Now, like I said, this pad is not exactly a close-up pad either. This is just a flimsy little game pad, like a mouse pad type of thing. I didn't want to use my good close-up pads, but yeah. This deck is ready to go into action right there. So, you know, wash your hands, do whatever you have to do. I know my buddy Chris, he don't do it anymore, but he used to do fanning powder in between his cards. Or like, you know, after he buffed them to kind of, you know, give them that nice, silky, smooth kind of flow. You don't have to do fanning powder if you don't want to. It's definitely not needed, as you can see. And yeah, just keep playing with it, break it in, get this deck nice and broken in, and trust me, you know, this is gonna add, Steven, I think he said something like this is gonna add about 30% of life to your cards. I agree, but I might even say it's gonna add a little bit more, to be honest. Probably a good 40 to 50% extra life out of your cards. You know, this is gonna clean up the edges for your cards, you know, everything. So just to kind of run back through this real quick and double back, we're gonna do this on a brand new deck of cards really quick, just run through it and show you how fast you can really do this. Okay, so let's take a look. So, like I said, we're going to run through a brand new deck of cards really quick. These are the Paradigm playing cards by me. You can get these at any of your favorite Murphy's Magic retailers, as well as sites worldwide, Vanishing Ink, Penguin Magic, you name it, they got them. So anyway, so remember what I said earlier, you're gonna have extra cards. Well, this deck, once again, like I said, not only can you use your jokers in the deck if you want, but you can also use the duplicate and the add card that I showed you earlier. Okay, so now this deck, because it's on the newer nice premium crush stock, this deck feels really nice and smooth as it is. It's not like you need to buff it, compared to the bicycle decks that you find at like grocery stores and stuff like that. But like I said, I'm yet to actually buff my own deck yet, so this is gonna it's gonna be fun. So actually, I'm not gonna use those. I'm gonna go ahead and break out. Let's see here. I am gonna use, you know what? We'll just we'll use 2 3s from my deck. We'll flip them the other way so that way we don't get it, you know, misconstrued. So yeah. So once again, just make sure everything's straight. Run back through. Said you're gonna hit it with that blue first. And you don't even have to hit it with the blue. That's the best part. You do not have to hit it with any of the blues. It's whatever you prefer. Like I said, my buddy Chris, he uses the pink only. You don't use the blue. I just wanted to kind of run through this and show you guys how fast you can actually do this. Okay, feels good. Next side, everything's straight. When you first start hitting it with that blue, it's going to be very coarse. Okay, don't be scared. Don't be like, oh my god, I'm digging into the deck. No worries. And if you have to readjust, readjust. And like I said, these are all trial and errors. That's all it is. Shine it up. You can already see this deck popping. Making sure it's not bowing too much or anything. Sides feel like absolute glass. I mean, I love that. making sure you're putting pressure not only on the sides, but also pushing the deck flat down on the bottom, so that way it's keeping all the cards flat and one's, you know, the same size. I don't like how that's looking right there. Hold on 1 second. Like I said, these are just minor adjustments that sometimes you have to make. And what I'll do is just make sure, might even go a little bit slower, just to make sure that nothing's being missed or overseen. You know, I think that especially with the newer generation of Magic, you know, this needs to be out in the world. You know, more people need to know about this. It's just one of those things. You know, if anybody is going to be upset about this video, which I could care less anyway, not because I'm a dick, but just because. I mean, who wants to hide such a great thing? You know, it's not like it's helping them do magic or something. I mean, it's keeping your cards alive. It's like waxing your car, right? You gonna not show your kids how to wax your car? Of course you are. You're gonna show them. You want your car to shine, right? You want your paint to last longer, right? This is like waxing a car or washing a car. It's not like it's, you know, making your car faster, right? It's gonna make it look better, and that's what this is about. This is gonna not only make your cards look a lot better, but it's gonna also increase the longevity of your cards. That's why I was gonna get into was, if anybody's to be upset, it would be the card companies, because less people are gonna be buying more cards, you know. So, you know, this will cut down on your card buying by a major amount. Trust me. You're not gonna have to buy cards nowhere near as much as you used to. If you guys at home are timing this, let me know in the comments below how long it took to do this fully, because I'm not keeping track. Definitely under 5 minutes. Just going back through real quick, checking, make sure my corners especially are good. Everything looks good. So you can see, if I show you this up close, you can see how much those edge cards are beat up. I mean, I don't know if you can see it, but these things are all ragged now from that buffer catching them. So like I said, just take those cards, toss them to the side, give them a couple, you know, you're gonna see that dust coming off, okay? And yeah, look at that. I mean, this thing it's gonna run like a dream. And of course, yes, you can say what you want. Oh, it's a new deck. It's a new deck. Yeah, I know it's a new deck. And that's another thing too, is keeping it, you know, nice and tight is going to avoid you having to go through and really get that dust off of these, right? Because once that dust falls in between those cards, they're not going to glide and ride like they used to be. You know, it's going to be, you're going to do fans, you're going to see breaks, it's going to look like the cards are clumping. If that happens, the one thing that I found that works quicker than anything is, if you're wearing a cotton shirt, right? Take every card, wipe it off, both sides, set it down. Next card, wipe it off, both sides, set it down. Wipe it off, both sides, set it down. That's going to help you to get all that excess dust off. That way, all the cards are gonna just glide nice and smooth. And like I said, once you get these really going, you're gonna see that doing table pharaohs are gonna be a lot more easier once you get the edges a little bit more rounded out. Okay, As you can see, it's already getting a little bit easier. And yeah, everything's just nice. So that is buffing at its core. Like I said, that's just a brief little synopsis, so to speak, on the subject. I hope you guys all got something out of this. You know, I want to thank Steven Youell for kind of bringing this to the light a little bit. This is the why I wanted to make this video, is because not a lot of people are seeing that. And I'm not saying I'm a bigger name or anything like that and whatnot, but I speak more to the masses as far as like the younger generation as well as the older generation, because I mean, of course, I'm not a young guy anymore, but you know, I want people to know about this. It's such a great thing. And you know me, I collect cards. I love playing cards more than, you know, like I said, I got 3 loves: playing cards, my kids, and my wife. That's it. So, like I said, don't be ashamed to get these if you're more comfortable with using the stick ones. Also, you know, and like I said, once you break it in half, it's the exact size, width, and length almost as that deck of cards, okay? So these might be a little bit more comfortable for you. Instead of using the block, you might be able to fill it more. As far as using this to go along, okay? And to even, you know, you can even use both if you want, if it's something you're more comfortable with. It's going to be all, once again, what? Your preference. So yeah, that's really it. So if you have any questions, like I said, leave them down in the comments below. If this is something you already do, let me know that as well. If this is something you're gonna do, feel free to let me know as well down in the comments. And yeah, and like I said, I got a lot of things planned coming up. We're so close to 1,000 subscribers, guys. So if you're watching this and you're not subscribed yet, please do so. You know, I was trying to finish off 2019 with 1,000 subscribers. It didn't happen. That's okay. I don't get discouraged over things like that, but it'd be nice to hit it. It's just a big milestone that, you know, I'm looking forward to. And like I said, I'm going to be doing a nice giveaway once we do hit that milestone as well. So, you know, like I said, something like 78% of you guys that watch my videos aren't even subscribed. I mean, the way I see it is, if you're going to be, you know, watching the videos anyway, just go ahead and hit that button. It's free. Why not, right? Other than that, I got some other great content planned for this channel as well, more than just reviews. You know, I really want to, with 2020 here, I really want to open up the platform and do so many great things. I got a couple big collabs coming with some really big names, so you don't want to miss out on that. And yeah, it's going to be a good year. So I want to thank you guys for, you know, watching this video all the way through. I hope you did learn something. Like I said, I want to thank all those involved in this whole project and, you know, allowing me to kind of share it with everybody. And yeah, and putting their faith in me to do it the right way. So that's it, guys. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, like I said, leave a like on this video. Subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll see you beautiful people on the next one.